Okay, it is 6 o'clock. And I think we have a nice group joining us. We'll go ahead and get started because we have a great project for about an hour. My name is Lorianne Macco, and I will be the host of this meeting. We do this about every month. And I hope for this one, it's like, the Hispanic culture and the deaf culture. And we are inviting students from Latino deaf clubs. And we have a great panelist here. They have very interesting topics. So we'll go ahead and start with the webinar. We do have a voice interpreter here and a live captionist. And if you do need that caption, just go to the bottom of your screen, whatever feels comfortable for you. I want to first thank the interpreters for being here tonight, and as well as the captionist. Our tech support, anyone really that was supporting this webinar, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry, let me get this. I also wanted to thank the panelists for being able to come here and show up. Without further ado, from me, I want to welcome Norma. She is the NTID's coordinator, the counselor. And she is hopefully, you have a great seat and you enjoy what the webinar has for today. So I want to welcome Norma to join and show on her screen. And she has a fun trivia, so we'll wait until Norma shows up. Great, perfect. Hi, Norma. I hope everything goes well and you have fun. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Norma. I am a graduate from NTID, and I graduated in 1995. And I am a tech communicator. Tonight we'll first go with the poll. We'll have some Spanish Latino heritage stuff, and then we'll have more questions for you, okay? So the first question, in what year did the United States begin celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month? Is it 1978, 1990, 1996? What are your thoughts? I'm watching to see how everyone's answering. Okay. What's the answer? 1968. The next question. What is the break of the eagle in the center of, what is in the beak of the eagle in the center of the Mexican flag? We'll see what you answer. Good answers, good. And the right answer is a snake. Yes. Next question. Which country flag has a yellow sun as a human face? Is it Uruguay, Argentina, or Panama? Is it Uruguay, Argentina, Panama? Which one is it? And the answer is Uruguay. Okay, ready for the next question? In December, the season in Argentina is it winter, spring, summer, or fall? Wow, of course, this is really random, but it's summer in December. Crazy, right? Okay, next question. Chile is the world's greatest producer of what type of metal? Is it copper, gold, or silver? And the right answer is copper. They produce a lot of copper. Next question. The original name of Los Angeles, California is, and you pick one of the four. Which one is it? Okay, and the answer is Pueblo de Nuestra Señora, Reina de los Ángeles. That is the correct answer, the second one. Great, thank you. Next question. Hernán Cortés brought his delicacy from the Aztec Empire to Spain. What is it? Is it mint, licorice, vanilla, or chocolate? I know this answer is easy. And it's actually chocolate. Good. Yes, most of them got it right. Next question. This bird of prey from the Andes is considered the biggest bird of prey in the world. Which one is it? The bald eagle, the hawk, the condor, or the falcon? Pick one of the four. Okay. Okay, I see people's answers. The condor, yes. That's the biggest bird of prey. Next question. True or false? Costa Rica abolished its army? True or false? Okay, it's about even. The answer is true. Costa Rica abolished its army. Next question. The highest mountain in South America is Aconcagua in Paraguay. Is this true or is it false? Okay, it's another pretty close one. And this is false. It is not in Paraguay, actually. Next question. The currency of Nicaragua is called Cordoba. Cordoba, is this true or false? I see there's more favor of one than the other. Let's see what the correct answer is. It is true. It is called a Cordoba. And that's all I have. I hope this was a fun part and you learned a few things. It was really fun to really sign everything. And now I want to introduce Ricky. He is a student, the student president of Ntid American Deaf Club. And this is Ricky. Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky. This is my sign name, RL. I am a senior at Ntid, and I am the president of the Ntid Deaf Club, and I'm really the coordinator here of this panel. And I have the panel that will, just give us a little bit of their background, their experience, being a, Hispanic, and seeing their experiences. So if all the panelists would please turn on their camera so we could see your faces. So we're going to start with Carlos.
Carlos, you ready? So Carlos, would you mind introducing yourself? Me? Oh, sure, sorry. I didn't realize you were speaking directly to me. Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm Carlos Mendez. It's my sign name. I'm in Austin, Texas. And I work as a teacher at the Austin School for the Deaf. So hello everyone. Just gonna give you a little bit of my background. My family is from China and Guatemala. My mother is from China and my father is from Guatemala. I was born in Los Angeles, California. And I went to school in Rhode Island. I met my wife here in Austin after being here for about a year. But I feel like I do definitely incorporate American ways. I do have some of my Chinese culture, also some Guatemalan culture. So big mix. And I guess that's it. Ricky saying, well, thank you, Carlos. Xavier, would you like to introduce yourself? Hi, I'm Xavier Arana. Now, the J in English sounds like, well, in Spanish, it sounds like a H. And so I was born in Nicaragua. My parents named me Javier. I moved to the United States, to Miami, back in 1979. And the reason why I moved is because of the Civil War. So my family moved to Miami. And I didn't really know English or ASL at that time. Well, my parents put me in a school. And so we moved in July. So in September, I was going to go to school, but I was deaf and I didn't know English. I only spoke Spanish. And I didn't really even read Spanish. I only spoke Spanish, but I didn't know any Spanish sign language either. So I went into a classroom and I saw that there were other deaf people there and learning sign language. So I started to learn, and then also learning English at the same time, learning both languages at the same time. Yeah. Eventually, I came to RIT. I was SVP 89. And here, imagine, I met a lot more deaf people, a lot more diverse deaf people. And I really started to feel more connected here or there at RIT and Ntid. There are different aspects. My family is in Europe and can't fly because of COVID, obviously. So I guess the most important thing of being deaf, Hispanic, Latinx, of course, is the language and the culture, the food. Everybody's a close-knit family. I love that. And I cherish that. We cherish that from where I come from.
Thank you, Javier. Next, we are going to go with Megan.
Ready? Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan. Megan Albertz. It's my sign name. I have a slightly different experience. I was born and adopted in America. I was born in Southern Florida. My birth mother is Irish. My biological dad is Colombian. Now, I was adopted to a white family, white culture family. I grew up speaking English. I went to oral schools. I didn't really sign. But the first time I came to RIT and Ntid, I saw all the sign language. I saw finally being able to connect with other deaf people. It was the coolest experience. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I didn't really do a whole lot with my Spanish culture at Ntid, RIT. I wasn't really there yet. But when I graduated college, I moved to North Carolina. And currently, I teach deaf students in a mainstream high school in North Carolina. And a lot of my students are Spanish speakers. They might be from Mexico, from Guatemala, from Honduras, Costa Rica, Brazil. When I was telling my students that my father, my biological father, was from Colombia, they started asking me all these questions like, do you speak Spanish? Do you know how to cook the food, Colombian food, and all of these things? And I didn't know any of it. So I started doing some research about Colombian food and culture, Central America, and I realized that I really did feel connected, and I wanted to be more connected. So now, later in my life, my later 20s, I'm finally finding the culture and feeling really connected.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't know that you work with students. That's awesome. Okay, now I'm going to introduce Isabel.
Hi, I'm Isabel Laínez. Now, my name is spelled with just one L. Anyway, I'm from El Salvador. It's near Panama, where Central America meets South America. And when I was 10, I moved in Canada, which is where I live, in Ontario. And the reason why we moved is because my family wanted to have a better future for myself. There in my country, and they didn't have a lot of infrastructure for deaf student or deaf kids. So I moved to Canada, and I want to always learn more about my culture. And I mean, when I grew up, I learned a little bit, of course, but I've always been really interested in all sorts of things, including sports and, all sorts of things. So after I graduated high school, I decided that I wanted to go to a university or college, and I thought I would go to the United States. And so I picked RIT. I was SVP of 2012. And again, like Megan was saying, I wasn't connected with my Hispanic heritage until I came here. And I met so many different people with different identities from El Salvador and different places, and which was great because that meant I could start speaking Spanish again, keeping up with my Spanish. So I saw some other people who were, and had similar backgrounds than I did. So I didn't really feel alone, thank goodness. And then, having the ASL also for communication was great. And I do want to, get more involved with Spanish, learning how to read and write it, definitely. But I'm not sad that we moved to Canada. I'm really thankful. I'm grateful that I was able to do that. And the more I learn, the more I can just incorporate, my heritage for sure. And right now I'm a freelance graphic designer, working with customers all the time. And I have a business called Art and Graphic. And we really have a policy where we are anti-racist and, really encourage people to just be able to do what they love. People who are really enjoying being around different cultures, and the more you can learn and, about other people, I think it's great. So I think it's really important to know about yourself and follow your dreams.
Yes, that's very important. Thank you. Yes, you are correct. So now I'm going to ask a question. When you got into RIT, did you experience, like now looking back, did you think, did you have any barriers for that? For, not being able to express yourself with your culture? Does anybody want to start?
Sure, I'll go. Javier. My most memorable experience coming to Ntid RIT, I think at the time, again, I didn't really know a lot of English. I was still going through that struggle of, learning English, even though we moved when I was in 4th grade all the way through high school. But I met more and more people with different diverse backgrounds, different languages from different states, learning in different modes. And learning ASL allowed me to have better access. I didn't really understand everything when I was in high school, elementary school, but once I learned ASL and how to communicate, it was such a powerful tool. And so, that happened to me when I was at NTID. And so hats off to NTID, RIT for that, because that's full access that they provide for all the students. And I have many, many alums who are friends still. So the communication was outstanding and the best part.
Yes. You know, learning how to really improve yourself, that's really important, definitely.
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
You. Carlos, do you want to go?
Sure. So I came to NTID, I was SVP 96. And I was one of the few Hispanic Latinx people on campus. But I met other people while I was on my time here at RIT and TID, and met other Latinx people, Hispanic people. So I started getting involved. I didn't really have a lot of experience. I didn't have much confidence in myself. I didn't have a lot of skills. You know, I didn't really. So I took the time that I needed to socialize, get involved in different things so that I could, grow and get more mature, and ended up getting into public relations. And every year, I, would get promoted, so to speak, and learn more things. And so it really helped me grow as a person. Before, I really felt like I couldn't do things. And now I felt, after my experience, that I can do things. I was a part of the Asian Deaf Club. I was a part of the Ebony Club. I was in part of the Student Congress. And I can't remember exactly which year, but I just remember feeling really connected to the community, and just kind of fell in love with it. And being involved in the different clubs really helped me be who I am, and meet more people out in the community, and even now. And the reason why I even am here is because I wanted to share my experience with other people, and during my time at NTID, I got an award from the Senate for my involvement in different community work and stuff like that.
Wow, that's great. It's great to see different people from different parts of the world. So yeah, I definitely understand. Megan, do you want to go ahead and share? Sure. Let's see, I got into NTID in 2010. So 10 years ago, wow. So like I said, I had no idea about sign language, about deaf culture. And when I entered NTID, I saw people signing and speaking and the simcomming. And I was like, whoa, I want to be part of that. So I started hanging out with a lot of deaf people, and I started picking up the language. And I joined different organizations. I did a few internships with school. And then after 5 years, I realized who I am and what I want to do for my future. And then I finished in 2014. And then I started teaching K through 12, and it was a great experience. And then I went back to NTID actually for a program, the Deaf Education Program. When I was doing some research, I really saw that I was picking up the language. As kids, it's easier for them to pick up language. And, you know, it's good to be trilingual, to speak English, Spanish, and sign, having all three of them together. And there's not a lot of research yet for that. And I'm actually curious, not about the research, because there's a lot of students here and in other countries that have multiple languages. Like Javier and Carlos and Isabel were all saying, you know, you have different cultures, you have different languages. And including that, I think that's very fascinating. So having those different cultures really makes you grow and find a Spanish identity. So that was my experience.
Oh, that's a great experience. Yeah, I mean, that's part of college, to improve yourself, better yourself for sure. Isabel, would you like to answer?
Really, now looking back, I didn't really have a lot of exposure to Hispanic culture. Once I graduated RIT, and I think that was in 2012, I met a few people and I felt like I wasn't really part of it. But then I saw Latinos, Latinx, and I was like, okay, I'm a little curious. And I would see like at the table or like a computer lab, and I would be like curious to join and see what their different, you know, different skin colors, different, you know, I was really involved within the culture because it was really great for me to see. I was really motivated to see all the traditions and see, you know, that I'm not really, yes, I grew up pretty independent and I didn't really want to be left out. And I do love my culture. I love everything. And I'm really curious about learning, you know, being in contact with people, just a lot of, you know, things related to culture. And I was, you know, trying to learn from that experience, trying to really incorporate it in my life and, you know, have those traditions like the foods, Mexican tacos, or even like that's just little thing. There's just, you know, some things that I'm learning about, just the culture and the food and the traditions. And I also want to, you know, learn about other countries. I also like being more knowledgeable about things. When I get into a new place, I want to learn something. I want to have the opportunity to grow, because knowledge is power. I mean, it's really about the exposure. And if you don't know anything, you know, you meet a lot of people, you go to school. There's a variety of ways you could learn. And a variety of ways that Latinx people could do that too. And I'm, you know, used to saying Latinx, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm Latina. I'm actually used to saying Latina or Latino, not really Latinx, but I'm learning about that. But there's different people who, you know, are Hispanic and are really, you have those roots. And it's all about learning about how to be involved with it. So really, there's just so much diversity. And looking back, I think it's important to know that and for my future.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It's important to keep an open mind and learn about all sorts of different cultures and languages. It always helps just to know more and to have those experiences.
Right, definitely.
That's great. So the next question, Um, so I was wondering if you had any advice for some of the students that are coming up in the ranks at RIT and NTID. So maybe I think I'll start with Megan first.
Okay. To the students, you could do anything you want, really anything. It doesn't matter if you're in high school or in college, if you're an adult, you can do anything. We need people who know Spanish, know the Spanish culture, who know the American culture, to know ASL. You could teach, you could be an advocate, you could be involved in a variety of jobs that help people understand their culture, my culture. There's plenty of cultures. And it's important to know that you can do that job and involve that culture. It doesn't matter how little English you know, how little Spanish you know, doesn't matter how little of English you know. It's important that you are successful and you understand that is important. Out in the world, celebrate your culture, celebrate your experiences.
Ah, that's great advice. Yeah. Yeah, sí se puede. Yes, you can. That's great. All right, Carlos.
I just wanted to comment on what Megan says. Yes, I definitely agree. And, you know, for the students, don't give up on your dreams. Keep chasing those dreams. Whatever you want to do in life, you make sure you have a checklist and check them all off. Make sure when you get into college, you learn different skills. And, you know, there's just so much to learn in that. So I really encourage you to keep learning and being involved in clubs. In the Latinx Deaf Club, there's many clubs available in college, and just keep going until you graduate and be involved, because that's your home. You know, it doesn't matter what country you're in. Like me, I'm in Texas, and I speak to, there's a Texas Deaf Club, and we have ongoing meetings, and it's a big state, I know, but we've definitely gone all over, and we've gone to the south part of the state. We've gone to Dallas. We've gone to, you know, just different areas where we meet a bunch of people. And it really has helped me understand and, you know, identify and understand my identity.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, so, you know, you think that maybe when you're in college, you can't get involved with the community, but you can. While you're in college is the time to get involved in many things that then can continue when, you know, once you graduate. Xavier?
Yes, I just want to reiterate what Carlos and Megan said. I recommend taking Spanish classes anywhere. If it's in your community college, if it's at NTID or another place. Because I took a Spanish class at NTID. I took a Spanish class because, you know, when I got there, I was 10 years old and I was like learning English. And so I was, you know, trying to make sure that Spanish and English, and then having all three languages, Spanish, English, and ASL, I was, you know, it could be a little bit overwhelming, but it's very important to still study and read, be able to read, speak speak Spanish. Because like right now I'm in a company, and, you know, Mexico, we email people from Mexico and it's in Spanish. And, I mean, they email me in English and everything, but I email them back in Spanish because they're in Mexico. It's really having that connection and being able to manage, the whole languages. It's a big company. It's really, the more you know about language, the better. And Spanish is great. Spanish language is really one of the most common in the world.
That's true. Yes, it is the most common language in the world. I think there's I don't know, sometimes they have 2 or 3 spoken languages, but I think there's just a few. So yes, I agree. It's true. So Isabel, how about you?
When you are a student, really make sure you're curious and you want to learn. Because once you stop learning, it's not good. Make sure you see how you grow up, how you use Spanish, and see how you understand that. If you see someone who needs help them. Maybe they're doing something wrong or bad. I mean, education is great. So whatever your passion is, check that off. Make sure you're doing it. And if you feel like you're a little unsure about in Spanish or English, well, learn about it. Make sure you hold yourself accountable. Make sure you know what you're, doing research for yourself so you understand. So you could be more passionate about what you want. It's a journey, really. If you're curious about the world, me as to identify as Hispanic, it's really important to see, oh, my identity. I am Hispanic. I'm deaf. All of these things are incorporated in your identity.
Definitely. For me, yeah, thinking about my culture, I'm from Mexico and all the traveling that I can do, but my dad's family is still there, and so I would definitely love to visit and learn more. Was there a question? Oh, okay. So our last question. I mean, you guys graduated however many years ago. So what have you noticed that's different in the representation of people like yourself, in the opportunities that were allotted to you then and versus now? Is there anything?
I could go, says Carlos. So when I got into Ntid a long time ago, I was working, and I was actually hired 6 years ago. I did a presentation back then, and I was, really taken aback. Everything had changed. I remember when I was there, LBJ, the building LBJ, and then the dining commons was right there. There was nothing to connect them. There was the deaf hall, the deaf dorms, and it became, more available. There's a lot that has changed over the years. Also, when I was a student, I remember I wish I knew 2 things. I wish I knew about my culture, and the history about it. I wish I studied more, the history about different countries. And at the time, my knowledge was really limited. I had no idea what, really about the different cultures. I was really disconnected with the Spanish, with my Hispanic culture. Um, there was a lot of politics involved in that, but I really had no idea. I wasn't involved. And I didn't have the resources until I really got involved. And I, saw the history. I learned more about it. And I learned that and I identified um, about myself a lot better. And now looking at pictures from before about my mom, my grandparents, and I see that culture, that richness that I, had to learn later on.
Right. I think it is important to know the history for sure. All right, Isabel. Well, I just graduated in 2017, so there's not a lot that has changed since then. But I now live maybe 3 hours away from RIT, so I don't really see a lot of the changes. But I have heard of a lot of the changes, a lot to do with deaf access. I found ways in my own, ways of being there, in my own design, in my business. I include the culture as much as I can when I'm speaking with my clients as well. And I like to work with women and women empowering, and I don't know, maybe in the very future, if we have children or something like that, maybe they can come and see how RIT changes. We'll see.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot more buildings next to there's actually a building that's going to be built next to the SAU. So
Wow.
we'll wait for that.
This is Xavier. And like Isabella and Carlos both mentioned, I mean, when I graduated from NTID, remember my SVP was 89, but I stayed for 8 years. It was a long time. Got an associate's degree and then a separate bachelor's degree. But I used both of those degrees, and my identity, which, 3 of them, English, Spanish, and ASL, luckily I was able to find work. And like I mentioned, where I am now, I think I'm the only, Spanish deaf person. I live in Minnesota. There are very few Hispanic Latinx people there. In Texas, California, and Florida, that might be, different. But in Minnesota, this is where the job brought me. So this is where I am. It's a very small community. And there is a small Hispanic community, but it's not the same as what perhaps others have experienced. But still, you can still learn. I still have goals. I still cherish the history, my history, and other cultures, food. I want to learn how to make different things, rice and beans, or what have you. I want to learn all sorts of things. Put it in a pressure cooker and see what happens. Also, I want to learn how to store food or can food, how, you can, I don't know, dry milk, condensed milk, so you can put it on a shelf instead of in a refrigerator, do some old farming type kinds of things. I think those are very valuable for our heritage and the history. So, yeah,
Right.
Very cherishable.
Right. Yes, I definitely agree. Megan?
Well, I went to NTID, RIT again. I wish at the time that I had known more about my own identity and culture. I graduated in 2014. I went in 2015. 2010, and then I stayed, well, yeah, 2017. Not a lot has changed. I haven't really been back to see what has changed. But what I know now about my own culture and my identity, I do wish I had known back then. I think I would have gotten more integrated with my deaf identity and my Hispanic identity. My major was more of a liberal arts major, and I know that other people were taking some prerequisites, some liberal arts prerequisites. So I kind of wish one of the classes that was offered at the time would be some sort of a, I don't know, Hispanic culture or Hispanic history, but deaf history, something like that. I do remember when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I took a course, I think it was called Global History from the Deaf Perspective, I think. Wow, super fascinating class. A lot of diversity in the deaf history and in the world, various cultures. It was really fascinating. So I wish that they had something more like that with specific cultures of all different cultures of different varieties, of course. I think it'd be really valuable for students. So yeah, I think that's it.
Yes, that's a great idea. Maybe we should contact NTID and our RIT to see, check the class courses. Now I want to open the floor up for questions. I know there's been some comments, made up. Like if anyone has a comment or anything like that. Let's see, I see a question. I see that you've all mentioned the culture itself. Many of my deaf students say they like to go to church, and that's one of the majorities that they that's really important for the culture. And having access to religion, maybe that's not a priority in the Latin American Deaf Club. Maybe that could be included in it. I'm not sure if that's something you've considered.
Megan saying, I'd like to answer that. I think religion is really important in community. My students currently may speak Spanish at home, and they do go to church, but they go to a hearing church, and then they sit there, and it's really kind of hard to pay attention. They don't really get a lot while they're there. So I think it's important to find maybe a Spanish-speaking interpreter or a sign language and Spanish interpreter so that they could have access. Growing up myself, I went to a church. It wasn't Spanish speaking, it was English, but I didn't understand. I'd go up there and sit there, and even though I'm hard of hearing, I still didn't understand what was really happening. It wasn't until later when I had an interpreter that I was like, wow. But again, that wasn't until I was more of an adult. I don't think that there's a solution, but I think continuing to ask the community about Spanish speaking members, ASL users, asking friends, asking, like I said, other church members, asking family members to, maybe propose something, and maybe somebody can find what you need so that people can actually understand what's happening.
Yes, it's very important to outreach the community. Does anybody else have a comment for that? Carlos?
Sure. I agree with Megan. I think continuing to network and meeting people is incredibly important. I'm open and I learn from different things, different religions, from Christian, just all sorts of different religions. My family is kind of a mix. We're kind of Christian and Eastern. So there are different perspectives. My father's family, they kind of tend to do some voodoo stuff, so I don't kind of get into that. But I think it's important to look at yourself, see how that intersectionality fits with you. And, you know, if you can learn about yourself, learn about your different culture and language and how that works out for you in your life as a person, as an individual, I think that's really important to learning about your identity. And then once you know more about yourself, you can learn about others. Javier?
Yes, thank you.
I'm religious myself. I'm a Roman Catholic, and both of my parents are also Roman Catholics. And of course, I would go to church, even if they were speaking Spanish, and I would look all around and I look at the stained glass windows and I would look at the ceilings and all the artwork. But I didn't understand what the priest was talking about. I mean, I tried. And of course, my mother would bring the book and say, here, this is what he's talking about. You could follow, or this is what they're singing. You can follow along. But it was really tough growing up that way. And now over the years, I don't go to church as much as I used to, even though most churches have interpreters, usually in English. But, you know, for me, it's kind of a haul. So especially, you know, living, like I said, in Minnesota, everything is, there's not a lot. It's not the same as being in, you know, a Spanish church, or, you know, or understanding even the inflections, because in Spanish, there's definitely more inflection. In English, it just seems more monotone. It's very different. So, but I think like it's hard to incorporate all that. I wish it was more. I wish they had more volunteer interpreters. Some churches have regular interpreters, some don't. Most of the time, I guess, again, it's for English and not Spanish. And so, you know, I just don't bother with it anymore.
Right. Let's see if there's anything else from the questions.
So somebody is asking about the food and culture. Let me see.
Right, food and culture. I mean, maybe you can learn from your grandparents. My family is very, you know, involved. You know, we go and we take cooking classes. You pay like a class fee, and then they offer something. You know, you're able to pay for that, and I think it's like a day, and you make a whole bunch of food. You make tortillas. Just make, they involve different fruits. So it's really important to have that culture involved, because food is very, very important. And, you know, American food is, it's all right. I forgot what the second part was. Was there anything else?
What or who influenced you?
Oh, right. I don't have anyone. I'm sorry. Let's try one more question and then we'll get done. What do you think is important as a young person, as a young Hispanic? What's important for people to know about? What is the most important thing for young deaf Latinx people right now? Carlos, go ahead. So the most important thing for young people is just being able to have different identities and continue meeting new people, especially after college, meet new people after that. It'll really help connect with people for jobs. And then the more people you learn, you meet, the more you learn about their identity and their culture. So I would just encourage you to really get in contact with people, because young people, sometimes are hesitant about their skills, but you use those skills. Be successful in your life. Take advantage of it. Okay, Xavier, do you have a comment? Yes, Carlos, I agree with that. And I wanted to just add something. Well, because of the COVID-19, it feels like meetings are really just gone. But I see all of you right here, right now. You see me. That, that power of technology is spreading. There's about, 50 people in this Zoom call, and we're not all in the same area. Some of you are in Texas, there's different areas, and we are all communicating right now. So I think that's very important to keep up with the network, with the technology, with pretty much anything, with your communication, because that network of people, when you become adults, and you see people will be looking up to you, and there's younger people looking up to you, and you're looking up to other people. So it goes both ways. I have friends that are younger than me, that are older than me, and those connections are because, I went out and met people. And just because, someone is 20 or 30 or 60 or even 80 years old, know that they are smart, they are able to communicate with you. And they have a past, they have a history. And really older people, you could understand their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their culture, their differences of environments. It's not the same, but we grow up differently, but we could still make a connection. Maybe it's not the best connection, like, you become best friends, but it's something to be able to communicate with people.
Right. Carlos, did you want to add something?
Yes, networking is great. I have 5 counselor or committees, and I have a list of people of different states, and I see, and I've seen them, and it's great to communicate and be part of everyone's lives.
Great. So I think if there aren't any other comments, okay, Megan?
just the last comment. This is Megan speaking. Really, anyone, your experiences are your own. You know, my experiences, I shared my experiences, but it's also good to see Carlos and Xavier and Isabel, Ricky, all of, you know, everyone that's on the panel list, everyone on the Zoom call. I hope you learned something, because you maybe didn't realize you aren't alone. You know that your experience is important, and it's important to celebrate your culture. And I hope you found your identity. And now you have time to reflect and really do some research and finally find your identity, find yourself. Because it's your experience and your culture, and looking back, it's very important.
Right. That's great. So I'd like to invite Laurie Ann back so she could do some final closing remarks.
Hello, everyone. Wow. I really enjoyed listening to your stories, your comments, sharing your experiences. I'm sure everyone in the audience watching was fascinated as well. I know time just went by too fast. I don't even want to interrupt you, but I wish we could keep going. I wanted to let you, I was really value your experiences. And I want you to keep continuing this dialogue. You know, because it's really nice to share and learn from each other and share each other's experiences, because everyone has different experiences from the place they grew up, and I appreciate you sharing your stories. I appreciate all the people on the panel. Thank you, Ricky, for coordinating the questions. Yes, of course, no problem. Carlos, Javier, Megan, Isabel, thank you all for your time, for being involved in this. It really helped us really open our minds and really get to know each other. So I did record it, and I will have it edited, so you'll be able to watch it in the future as well. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. Maybe we'll have more meetings to host. Thank you for our tech, the captionists, the interpreters. Thank you all. I appreciate your help. So I am going to close for now. It was a great night. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you. It was nice to meet you. Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.